Hey everybody, welcome to the Tuesday Talk. These videos are going to be similar to the old Wednesday Word videos where we'll kind of unpack a scripture passage every single week. The only difference is instead of just being a random passage that I pick out of here or there, these will be more like ordered studies. So we're going to kind of go through like a book together for a little while. And it might be a chapter a week, might be a couple chapters, kind of depends on the book and how that kind of works out. So for example, this week we're going to dig into the book of Jonah. So how this will work is I'll unpack a chapter. It's Jonah. It's a short book, so we'll do like 4 weeks, 5 weeks in a row. We'll unpack Jonah, and I won't read the entire chapter. I'll only pick a section out to take a look at. So the idea would be that you would either watch the video and then read the chapter, or read the chapter and then watch the video, so that you guys can kind of get more out of reading this awesome book. So, for example, today we're going to read Jonah chapter 1. I'm only going to read the first 3 verses of that, and then we'll talk about the entire chapter. But those first 3 verses kind of give us some context for what we're going to be talking about. So, if you have a Bible and you want to read along with me, open up to Jonah chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. Now the word of the Lord came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." But Jonah rose to flee from Tarshish to the presence of the Lord. He went down to Joppa and found a ship going to Tarshish. So he paid the fare and went on board to go with them to Tarshish, away from the presence of the Lord. Now, if you know the story of Jonah here, we see this thing right at the very beginning where Jonah has this opportunity. We see God calls him to do something. I don't know if you've ever had a moment where you've felt this kind of call in your heart, a call to go do something, to go follow God's direction. But Jonah has these 2 options. He has this opportunity to trust and say that God's idea is better than his own, or his opportunity to take his desire, his idea, and run with that. That's what he chooses to do. It's actually very direct. He doesn't really, respond to or anything. It's just like immediately he gets up, he hops on a boat, and he says, "No, I'm not going to Nineveh, bro. I'm going this way." And he starts going the other way as fast as he possibly can. Hops on a boat, goes as quick as he can. And we see that God lets him make that decision. God doesn't immediately come down and say, "No, Jonah, we're not doing this," and turns him around or anything like that. God lets Jonah say, "Okay, yeah, no, I'm not doing this." God lets him get on the boat. But then he faces an actual consequence of doing that. God sends a storm. God sends a storm to turn Jonah back around. And we see the rest of the story if you haven't ever read the story before. Basically, the storm comes through and the boat's getting like torn apart, and the sailors are like, "Oh my gosh, Jonah, what are we going to do?" And they actually find him sleeping in the cabin. They go to him like, "Hey, Jonah, start praying to your God. We're all praying to our gods. We're all praying. We need some help here right now. The ship's going to break apart." And Jonah's like, "Well, listen, guys, my God is like the bestest of all the gods, because he's this God of heaven and earth, and he does all these amazing things." And the crew is like, "Then what are you doing not praying to him?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, actually I'm running away from him." And they're like, "What are you doing, man?" And they kind of get into this thing, and they realize, or Jonah's idea anyway, is that the solution for this storm is to throw him into the sea. And we see there's kind of the 2 ways you can look at this. There's the way of looking at it like, oh, he's sacrificing himself honorably to save these sailors. And I think that's a fair interpretation. There's also the interpretation that this is like Jonah's ultimate way of getting out of having to go to Nineveh. He's like, "Oh man, if I throw myself overboard, then I get washed up somewhere. I won't have to go to Nineveh anymore, right?" And that's what he kind of does. And so they throw him overboard, and Jonah kind of faces yet again the natural consequences of his actions. He said, "Okay, I'm going to get thrown overboard. I'll get thrown into the sea, and that way I won't have to go to Nineveh." But then God says, "Actually, Jonah, I'm going to send a fish to swallow you, so that you have to go to Nineveh." And we see in this situation here that this is kind of natural progression. Jonah says, "Okay, I'm going to get on a boat and go the other direction," so God sends a storm. Jonah says, "Okay, there's a storm, I'm going to throw myself overboard," so God sends a fish. And we see this in the situation where Jonah is, instead of trusting that God's plan is better than his own, he says, "No, I'm going to keep pushing my direction." And we have the same opportunity whenever God calls us to do something. I'm sure you felt this moment where it can be really obvious, like Jonah here, where you feel this really obvious tug on your heart to go do something, or this thing in your mind where it's just like, "Oh man, I got to go do this." It can also be subtler, smaller things. But whenever we have those opportunities, we have these 2 choices. We can trust and say, "Okay, God, I don't entirely know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to trust that your vision for how this is going to work is better than my own." Or we can say, "No, you know what? I'm going to take it into my own hands. I'm going to do what I think is best." And this is this wrestle we all have to go through whenever we have these opportunities. And they're great opportunities, and they're always amazing things. and that's just wrestling we have to do, and then trusting that God's going to make the best out of whatever we do. God will lead us in the direction we need to go, and that kind of gets into the rest of the book, and we will unpack that more as we kind of get down the road here. But that's Jonah chapter 1. This opportunity to trust God or trust ourselves whenever we have these moments call it before us. So that is the Tuesday talk for this week, talking about Jonah chapter 1. I encourage you either take a read of this one and then watch the video, or however you want to do that, just to get the most out of reading this awesome book that God's given us to study. So that's Tuesday talk. I'll see you on Thursday with the Thursday thought. I'm getting really creative with these names, or if anything, next week with Jonah chapter 2 with the Tuesday talk then. So that's all for this week. We'll see you all next week. Thanks. Bye-bye.